Continuing Chapter 6 of Part 7. Next to Jesus sat John, who is fond of designating himself as the disciple whom Jesus loved. Well, we know that John was not the John of the disciples, but wouldn't the others have made Matthew, Mark, and Luke a little bit distinct compared to the other Gospels? Although none of the other historians show any partiality on the part of Jesus, Peter was at some distance. He signed to John to ask Jesus who it was that should betray him. He did ask him, and Jesus answered, but perhaps in a tone that the others could not hear. He it is, to whom, having dipped the sop, I shall give it. He dipped the sop and gave it to Judas, who seemed to have been sitting on his other side. Then he faltered out, Rabbi, what, am I he? It would seem that Judas did not intend to betray him that night, nor is it probable that his plan was to do this until after the close of the feast. But the proceedings at the supper hastened him. Jesus replied, You have said it. What you do, do quickly. No man at the table knew for what intent this had been spoken to Judas. Evidently, if Peter had known which one it was, he would have slain him on the spot, for he was a choleric man and had a sword with him, and although he himself was about to be most base and violate all the sanctity of his friendship for Jesus, quite as much as Judas, yet he did not know that, and he was a rash man, although destitute of moral courage, so none of the company knew the intent of the communication which Jesus made to Judas. And when he arose, he left them. May they not have supposed that the Master had sent him out on some errand? It was night, says John. In every sense it was night. The daylight had gone away from the tops of the mountains round about Jerusalem, and darkness was settling deeply on the ravines and gardens around the city. The little band of followers were groping in a perplexity like midnight. It was night in the soul of Judas, such dark night as utterly bewildered him. He had laid his plans in utter worldliness. He was being hurried up and disconcerted. The men he had left in the upper chamber were simple, unworldly souls, and he was sagacious. He had at least a plan, they none. He had gone thus far with it. Should he go forward? Should he go back? Was there any reason to recede from the position he had taken? Why should he go back? Did Jesus mean to urge him on by what he said? It may have flashed upon his mind that perhaps Jesus did. When men have set themselves to a theory of everything favors it. Well, if it is a theory, the facts are supposed to be all in agreement with it. But a lot of facts have nothing to do with one theory or another. Judas had forgotten the fearful woe just uttered. He must have felt himself out of sympathy with the other disciples. The very looks and tones of Jesus must have perturbed him. But going forward might be failure and ruin. He was in a storm of conflicting emotions and motives. Satan had him. It was night. After Judas had left, Satan said, Now the Son of Man is glorified, and God is glorified in him. And God shall glorify him in himself, and shall immediately glorify him. Little children, yet a short time I am with you. You shall seek me, and as I said to the Jews, Where I go, you cannot come. And now I say to you, a new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, as I have loved you. You shall also love one another. But this shall all men know, that you are my disciples, if you have love one for another. Peter said, Lord, where are you going? You cannot even apprehend the idea that Jesus would die. The whole discourse of Jesus about his departure was a perplexing riddle to his disciples. It seemed as if he were going off somewhere to have a terrible conflict. This was confirmed when Jesus answered, "Where I go, you cannot follow me now, but you shall follow me afterwards." Peter persisted, "Lord, why cannot I follow you now? I will lay down my life for you." Jesus replied, "Will you lay down your life for me? I most assuredly say to you, the rooster shall not crow till you have thrice denied that you know me." Then he said to his disciples, "You shall all be offended in me this night, for it is written, I will smite the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock shall be scattered." Zechariah 13:7. Now, Surah 33:40, I think. Or is it 344? That's it. Talks about this propensity of fanaticism, that they make it about the life of the prophetic figure rather than the teachings. So if they die or are killed, you stay just as firm on the path. "But after I am risen again, I will go before you into Galilee." Peter again responded still more vehemently, "If all shall be offended in you, yet will not I. Even if I must die with you, I will not deny you." And Jesus said to him, "Simon, Satan has acquired you to sift you as wheat, but I have prayed for you that your faith fail not." The force of the Greek middle in this passage is noticed by Greswell. It signifies not merely that Satan desired to have, but actually got possession of the apostles, that they had been given up to him to sift. He had gotten out Judas, and was like to get out Peter, but Jesus was praying for him. In the original, the pronoun is in the plural in the first, and singular in the second sentence. The second section of the sentence. "Satan has required you, apostles, to sift you, but I have prayed for thee, Peter, that thy faith," and so on. It was too late for Judas, and the other apostles were not in so much peril as Peter, whose temperament particularly exposed him. "And when you have turned, strengthen your brethren. Then to all the disciples, when I sent you without purse or wallet or sandals, did you want anything?" They said, "Nothing." "But now," said he, "he that has a purse, let him take it, and likewise his wallet. And he who has no knife, let him sell his garment and buy one. For I say to you, that which is written must be accomplished in me." And he was numbered with the lawbreakers. Isaiah 53:12. "Also that concerning me has an end." While Schausen's interpretation of this seems good, what stands written of me as regards this earthly life, with all which it involves, is being fulfilled. His disciples informed him that there were 2 swords in the chamber. Jesus said, "Enough is," as perhaps we should say, "enough of this." He was simply striving to impress upon their minds that there was to be a change, that whereas they went out formerly with perfect safety, and the assurance that his name would be a passport to them everywhere, because it was in the palmy days of his great popularity, a change was to come because he was going away, and his name was to be coupled with ignominy. The stupidity of these simple men is annoying to us. Well, if you're told since you're little, this is the moral of the story, this is the moral of the story, this is the moral of the story, then how is it stupid for others not to know without being told in the same way, right? But we are to remember that we carry back to the inspection of their words and acts the light which subsequent events have afforded, and that we lack the deep impression on their minds made by personally witnessing repeated miracles which had made Jesus seem to them to be invulnerable to human attacks. If he was going to have trouble, they were ready to fight. And when he went into details of purse and wallet and traveler's knife, the last seemed to them to indicate a conflict. It was customary for the Galileans to travel armed. Peter wore his sword, and it seems that another disciple also had come in with his, but 2 swords against the combined forces of the Jewish hierarchy and the Roman power seemed so preposterous to Jesus that he said, "Enough of this." Now, possibly it's because he only had a couple people, but it's, again, not about the physical rule. You got to have that spiritual stuff with it first. The perturbation of the disciples must have been very great. To soothe them, Jesus, in most artless, charming, and affectionate words, said, "Let not your hearts be disturbed. Believe in God, and in me believe." For the benefit of readers who know nothing of Greek, it is proper to say what scholars know, that this verb in the original, piscueta, is the same in the indicative and in the imperative, and that we have the ancient manuscript without punctuation. This gives us choice of many readings. 1. That of the common version, "Ye believe in God, believe also in me," where it is rendered as indicative in the first clause and imperative in the second. 2. That which I have chosen above, where both are imperative, and a slight difference in punctuation gives a great difference in sense. 3. You believe in God and you believe in me. The trouble was that their faith in God and in Jesus was weakening. 4. Believe in God, then you will believe in me. In the rendering which I have chosen, the consistency of tenses is maintained. The first, piscueta, is, as it were, the text of this consolatory discourse. In the house of my Father, the mansions are many. But if not, I would have told you, because I go, that I may prepare a place for you. This passage may bear the following translation, but if not, I would not have told you that I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and will receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. Nothing could be more tender between men. If he paused a moment, thinking of the meeting in the spiritual world, after all the trials and conflicts of this, he added very soon, "And where I go, you know the way." Thomas, the honest and despondent skeptic, said, "Lord, we do not know where you are going, and how can we know the way?" Jesus answered him, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you had known me, you should have known my Father also, and henceforth you know him and have seen him." And again, this language is used for the various prophets. If you obey the messenger, you're obeying God. The avatar or sent one, apostle, whatever you want to say. If you know yourself, you know God. If you know about the prophet of the age, you know about God, etc., etc. And so the way, the V, the truth, the L, and the X is life. Lux, ferus, the one who brings an illuminating light. Lucifer, light bringer. Philip, leaning towards materialism and demanding evidence of which his senses might take cognizance, now says, "Lord, show us the Father, and it is sufficient for us." Jesus answered, "Am I so long time with you, and yet have you not known me, Philip? He who has seen me has seen the Father, and how can you say, 'Show us the Father'?" If this reply does not make a distinct and explicit claim to divinity on the part of Jesus, it would seem exceedingly difficult to frame a proposition in Greek or English which could. Whether the claim can be well-founded is a question for another department. The historian is obliged to record that Jesus claimed to be the Father of the universe, the unoriginated God. No, he very distinctly draws himself out as something different. Do you not believe that I am in the Father and the Father is in me? Okay, see, again, on the presence of God, but Father is in a different than this generation, right? Not even the same generation as me. That's providing the rules, providing this, the words which I speak to you, I speak not of myself, but the Father who dwells in me does his works. See, he's operating in the power that God gave him, not his own way. Believe me that I am in the Father and the Father in me. But if not, believe the works themselves. I most assuredly say to you, he who believes on me, the works that I do, shall he do also, and greater than these shall he do, because I go unto the Father. Now, as a human being, not as a human being, but as a God, he claims to speak his marvelous words and do his marvelous acts. Again, didn't we just refute that? That's he's doing the work of the Father, he's not operating his own doctrine, he's not operating his own power, as we've seen elsewhere, right? And, which simply means that moral works are greater than miracles, being an imperishable plane, concerned with spirit and not with matter, always beneficent, and involving not simple divine autocratic volition, but such divine power of truth as moves the free will of man. And whatsoever you shall ask in my name, that will I do, that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If you should ask me anything in my name, I will do it. If you love me, keep my commandments. And I will ask the Father, and he will give you another advocate, which either variation of this in John 14, I think, you end up Ahmed. That he may abide with you forever, the Spirit of truth, which the world is not able to receive, because it does not see it, nor know it. You know it, for it dwells with you, and shall be in you. A legal term, Jesus had been the assistant of his disciples, standing up for them and defending him. After his departure, the Spirit of truth, which should dwell in them, and in every emergency assist them, should be their advocate. Well, the spirit of the message, you could say, but which is distinct from him. That's possibly an interpretation, you could say, but I will not leave you orphans. I am coming to you. Yet a little while, and the world sees me no more. But you see me, because I live. You shall live also. In that day ye shall know that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you. He who has my commandments and keeps them, he it is who loves me. And he who loves me shall be loved of my Father, and I will love him, and will manifest myself to him. Here occurred another interpretation showing how deeply planted in the minds of the apostles was the idea of a splendid temporal reign of the Messiah. Judas Thaddeus, Matthew 10, verse 3, not Iscariot, was puzzled at the thought of a Messiah who should limit the display of his glory to the small circle of his immediate followers. He asked, Lord, and how is it that you are about to manifest yourself to us and not to the world? meaning the whole world, to make him comprehend in some measure the spirituality of his teaching. Jesus replied, "If anyone love me, he will keep my word, and my Father will love him, and will come to him and make our abode with him. He who does not love me does not keep my commandments, and the world which you hear is not mine, but the Father's who sent me, and the Advocate, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name." Another sent one. See, that's the difference there. And it can't be Gabriel or something, because that just doesn't make any sense. Because whether you say Gabriel or some part of divinity or something, how can that not happen until Jesus is gone? The Father will send in my name. So again, confirming the truth of Jesus. He shall teach you all things and remind you of all things that I have said to you. And perhaps you can say sent in his name to clear up the issues that have arisen concerning him. Through teaching, not necessarily that people don't hold those opinions anymore, but peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give to you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. You have heard that I said to you that I am going away and am coming to you. If you loved me, you would rejoice because I go to the Father, for my Father is greater than I. And now I have told you before it come to pass, that when it has come to pass, you might believe. No longer will I talk much with you, for the ruler of the world is coming, and in me he has nothing, but that the world may know that I love the Father, and as the Father has commanded me, so I do. Arise, let us go hence. In this he seems to draw a distinction between the merely human soul, which made him a man, and the eternal Godhead which he believed to exist in his nature. Now, he doesn't actually say that he believes that there is a Godhead, because Godhead is a polytheist idea. Not only does it imply lesser divinities, but it possibly brings up this idea of plurality in divinity, like different personages, and however you're going to term that sort of thing, which was the greater part of him, and which was that spoke the words and wrought the miracles, which he represented as done by the Father. It is, section 2, the Valedictory and last prayer. It was probably at this point that they sang some portion or the whole of the great Hallel, which comprised the 115th, 116th, 117th, and 118th Psalms. Maimonides, the sacrifice of the Passover, 8:14 says that it was sung while the Paschal lamb was being eaten, but this does not appear to have been confined so strictly to any particular portion of the feast. A part may have been sung now, and a part then. Jesus resumed his discourse in the chamber after the Hallel, or else when they had passed the city walls and before they had crossed the Kidron. Okay, did I miss where the cross was? Simply meaning that all power in the world could avail nothing against him if he did not freely and voluntarily surrender himself. The God that was in him marked out a course for the man that was in him. Well, he was the human, but the human vehicles, again, we're not all the human vehicles, not our eternal being. And he intended to follow it, but the world and the prince or ruler of the world must never for a moment fancy that it or he had conquered Jesus. Well, was it 2 Corinthians 4:2 or that thing? See, it's a Pauline thing. The idea that Satan is the god of this world and age. Where does Jesus claim that? He did not hurry. He had lingered in the chamber, delivering a consolatory discourse to his disciples. Now he walked slowly, or paused and stood, and talked with them. He knew what Judas was doing, and neither hastened nor retarded events. It is not known what suggested the opening of the outdoor discourses if the remainder of the discourse was delivered in the open air. They may have been passing vineyards. Nature was perpetually inspiring the speeches of Jesus. Well, fences, perhaps. He resumed, I am the vine, the true one, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me not bearing fruit, he removes it, and every branch bearing fruit, he prunes it, that it may bear more fruit. Already you are clean through the word which I have spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch is not able to bear fruit of itself. And see, the I and me, and I and you, that does away with the idea that Jesus is giving a distinct and only him or only with God relation with that way of speaking. Except it abide in the vine, so cannot you, except you abide in me. I am the vine, you the branches. He who abides in me, and I in him, the same bears much fruit. For without me you can do nothing. If anyone do not abide in me, he is cast forth as a branch, and is withered. And they gather it and cast it into the fire, and it is burned. If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, whatsoever things you wish, seek, and it shall be done to you. In this is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit, and become my disciples. As the Father loved me, I also have loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you shall abide in my love, even as I also have kept my Father's commandments, and abide in his love. These things have I spoken to you, that my joy might abide in you, and that your joy might be made full. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love than this has no man, that he lay down his life for his friend. You are my friends, if you do whatever I command you. And, well, that's the servant-slave aspect of love by and for God. And you do this by obeying the sent one, right? But then you can move on to the friendships for God. The friendship, and, well, don't have time to explain all that, but no longer do I call you slaves, for the slave does not know what his Lord is doing, but I have called you friends. For all things that I have heard from my Father I have made known to you. You have not chosen me, but I have chosen you, and appointed you, that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit shall remain, that whatever you shall ask of the Father in my name, he may give it to you. You know, that you're part of the same movement. But obviously, the Father is not the same, because how can the Father be informing the Son about stuff he doesn't know if the Father is the same as the Son? Right? These things I command you, that you love one another. If the world hate you, then you know that it hated me first. If you were of the world would love its own. But because you are not of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world, on this account the world hates you. Remember the word which I have spoken to you. The slave is not greater than his Lord. If they persecuted me, they will also persecute you. If they have kept my word, they will keep yours also. But also those things they will do to you on account of my name, because they do not know him who sent me. If I had not come and spoken to them, they would not have sinned. But now they have no excuse for their sin. He who hates me hates my Father also. If I had not done among them works which no other man has done, they would not have sinned. But now have they both seen and hated, both me and my Father. But that it might be fulfilled, the word which in their law is written of them, they hated me causelessly. Psalm 35, verse 19, and 69, verse 4. But when the advocate is come, whom I will send to you from the Father the Spirit of truth, which proceeds from the Father. He shall testify concerning me, and you also shall bear witness, because you have been with me from the beginning. These things have I spoken to you, that you should not be offended, for they shall make you excommunicated. More, the hour is coming that whoever kills you will think that he offers a service to God, and these things will they do to you, because they have not known the Father nor me. But these things have I told you, that when the hour shall come to you, the hour shall come, you may remember that I have spoken of them. And these things I did not say to you at the beginning, because I was with you. But now I am going away to him who sent me, and none of you ask me, whither are you going? But because I have said those things to you, sorrow has filled your heart. Nevertheless, I tell you the truth. It is profitable to you that I go away. For if I go not away, the advocate will not come. But if I depart, I will send him to you. And when he is come, he will convict the world of sin, and of righteousness, and of judgment, of sin, because they do not believe in me, of righteousness, because I go to my Father, and you see me no more, and of judgment, because the ruler of the world is judged. Many things yet have I to say to you, but you cannot bear them. And when he, the Spirit of truth, is come, he will guide you in the truth. For he shall not speak out from himself, but whatever he bears, he shall speak, and he will tell you things to come. He shall glorify me, for he shall receive of mine and announce to you. All things that the Father has are mine. Therefore I said that he takes of mine and shall announce to you. A little while, and you shall not see me, and again a little while, and you shall see me. Then said some of his disciples among themselves, what is this that he is saying to us? A little while, and ye shall see me no more. And again a little while, and ye shall see me. And because I go to the Father. What is this little while? We do not understand what he is saying. Jesus knew that they were about to ask him, and anticipated them by resuming, do you inquire among yourselves, because I said, a little while, and you shall not see me, and again a little while, and you shall see me? I must assuredly say to you, that you shall weep and lament, but the world shall rejoice. You shall be sorrowful, but your sorrow shall be turned into joy. A woman, when she is about to bring forth, hath sorrow, because her hour is come. But when she has given birth to the child, she remembers the anguish no more, for joy that a man is born into the world. And ye therefore now indeed have sorrow, but I will see you again, and your heart shall rejoice, and your joy no one takes from you. And in that day you shall ask me nothing. I most assuredly say to you, whatever you shall ask the Father in my name, he shall give it to you. Hitherto you have asked nothing in my name. Ask, and you shall receive, that your joy may be full. These things have I spoken to you in Proverbs. The hour is coming when I shall no longer speak to you in Proverbs, but I shall tell you plainly concerning the Father. In that day you shall ask in my name. And I do not say to you that I will pray the Father for you, for the Father himself loves you. See, don't rely on intercessors. Rely on your own worthiness. Because you have loved me and have believed that I came from God. I came forth from the Father, and you have come into the world. Again, I leave the world and go to the Father. Some one of his disciples said to him, now you are speaking frankness and not speaking a proverb. Now we know that you know all things and have no need that anyone should ask you. By this we believe that you came forth from God. And so, those 5 stages of love, I guess I have a minute to talk about that. You have the servant master. You have the friend. You have the parent child. You have the spouse. And you have the socially inappropriate love of God. And when it comes to that, you perfect what are called the lower levels. You don't just skip over, oh, I'm going to be socially inappropriate for God. It doesn't work like that. And the servant master level is, yeah, all these rules and principles and that sort of stuff, you do them. And it's the ones that have been sent, because Jesus talks about his doctrine not being his own doctrine, but the one of that which sent him. And that's a interesting textured rock, isn't it?